In this video, we're going to talk about standing waves, how a wave and its reflection could then create a wave that looks like it's not really moving, but it's a creation of two waves superimposed upon each other. So now we're going to be talking about standing waves. And standing waves, the most common example is a rope, which I kind of have a demo up from the O-Physics guys up on here. Now, what happens is it's not really that the wave, like if you look at it, the reason we call it a standing wave is it does not look like there's a wave going left and right. You know, like under like the previous one, we talked about waves traveling. Here, it kind of looks like everything's just kind of going up and down. And the reason it looks like that is it's really because of a sum of two waves. There's a wave and a reflected wave, and they add in such a way to cause this standing behavior here. Okay, it's because there's a wave and a reflected wave. There's actually two waves traveling, but they cancel out in such a way that this occurs. Let me see if I can find a demo of that occurring. This is a really cool, simple demo that sort of shows you. So here what we're going to have is we're going to have an incident wave coming in, and it's going to hit this endpoint. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a reflected wave. Okay, so it's going to boom, it's going to hit that end, it's going to bounce off, and see that there's a reflected wave comes back. But there's still incident wave is coming in. Okay, and so now we have two waves, and just like we did superposition in the previous lesson, is what happens is when the blue and the red, they overlap, they're adding together. If you don't see the two waves, what you see is sort of this up and down, this standing wave. Now, the reason you're seeing that is because the reflection hasn't made it all the way through, but you kind of see there's two waves that are coming in. There's an incident wave traveling, and then there's the reflected wave. And the result is this kind of standing wave pattern that gets created. Okay, so that's what this simulation is showing you, is that is the result of that standing wave. But it's because it appears like it's not moving though, but there's really two waves that are adding in such a specific way that happens. Now, there's a couple of things that we note here. When at these amplitudes here, those points here, those peaks there, we call those antinodes. What you'll notice is there's specific points along the wave, and you can see it maybe more in here. There's specific points where the wave does not oscillate. It does not move. Okay? And so because it's a fixed point there, we call those nodes. And you see the antinodes occur where it's the most. And anywhere in between, it's kind of like it's moving up and down. But this is the medium. This is the shape of the medium that's going to happen. But the antinodes, so that's just some terminology. The nodes occur where the medium doesn't move, which is right here. Those kind of fixed points. They look like they're fixed points, but it just happens to not move because the wave just always destructively adds at that point. And you can kind of see that. It's just sort of at those points, at the nodes, it's always that they're just kind of canceling each other out there. Okay, and the antinodes are the peaks. That's where it's kind of always had the max. Now, the antinodes, they do swing up and down. I want you to keep in mind that it does sometimes cancel out, but it's the wave as it moves is swinging between those two positions there. Okay, so one of the formulas one of the few formulas we have in here is that for a string. So now we're talking specifically about a rope. So specifically on a string is that you have this formula here, is that the string is related, how fast it moves along the string, how fast the wave moves is related to two things. The tension in the string, and we call the mass density. That's the total mass of the string divided by the length of there. That's usually given by the Greek letter mu. I know, like coefficient of friction, but we just kind of use the same letter. Mass over the length, that's that density. And the string is the ratio, square root of the tension. You don't need to understand where that derivation comes from. It's just sort of a formula you just kind of remember. But you do want to remember it's related to the tension. Like increasing the tension will increase the speed that the wave moves along the string. And also increasing the mass density, like if it's a heavier string, like it's a denser string, like a chain compared to like a rope, it will reduce the speed, okay, if you make it more dense. Okay, so that's an important relationship you want to understand. Now, in order for there to be a standing wave, there has to be something that, like, not just any wave can fit in the string. Because if you think about the string, like, think about it is that there are two fixed points at the end. Like if I'm going to pluck a guitar string or something like that, in order to fit in there, the nodes have to be at the end points if they're fixed. Okay, so if it's fixed at the two ends, okay, then what that means is I can only fit certain kinds of waves into that length of string. That's because these have to be nodes at that point. And so this is diagrams of different, these are called harmonics. So if you look at a stringed instrument like a violin or a cello or a guitar or ukulele, this is how they operate. They can they're fixed at both ends, because at the ends, it's not like the rope can end. It's just it can move around. At the ends, they cannot move. That means you could fit a wave that looks like this, if this is the length of the string. You could fit a wave that looks like this. You could fit a wave that looks like this. And we'll talk about these formulas here in a second. But what you want to think about is, and this is an important thing to think about for standing waves, is to understand how does the wavelength compare to the length of the string. Now, for this one, this is kind of like the longest wave, the biggest wave you could fit in. You could just say like, well, for a sine curve, if I just say this and this is the length of the string, then this is the best I could fit in. It will just oscillate up and down like this. Okay. Now, if this is the length of the string, what ends up happening is the entire wavelength is 2L. The wavelength has to be 2L. Why? Because this distance is also L, and the wavelength is the physical distance for the wave to sort of repeat again, right? So that's where this comes from, is the length of the string is 1/2 lambda, okay? What about the next sized one you could fit in here? Well, if this is a fixed node, you could fit one thing like this. So you could then say, oh, hey, now the wavelength is exactly equal to L. Or in this case, you could say, oh, well, this is my wavelength, right? This is my wavelength. How does that compare to L? Well, if that distance is L, it's almost like L is like 1.5 wavelengths here. Like the L's equal to lambda plus 1/2 lambda, because this is half a wavelength here. If this is one wavelength, because it's just one cycle, then that's an extra half. That would be 3/2 lambda. And so the wavelength there is going to be 2/3 L. Now remember, back to our properties of waves is that the velocity is wavelength times frequency. So what you're having, this is fixed. Why is it fixed? Because the velocity is related to the tension and the mass density. So this doesn't change for a particular. Now, that's why when you tune, if you ever tuned a guitar or it's out of tune, you're changing the tension, because you're changing the tension so that the velocity is a particular value. And then you can fit certain wavelengths on here, and the frequencies would be the velocity over the wavelength. So what we can do is the velocity is fixed. These different wavelengths refer to different frequencies, and different frequencies are different notes that you can play on an instrument. So they will sound different. We call these things harmonics. This guy here is the fundamental frequency. And then all of these are harmonics. And when we get to sound waves, we'll talk about that in more detail, but that's the main idea. So let's look at some examples. So we have a 2.4 meter wire. So we have a wire here. It's 2.4 meters. Has a mass of 7.5 grams, which is 0.075 kilograms. I like to have everything in SI units. And the tension is equal to 160 newtons. The wire is held rigidly at both ends and set in oscillation. What is the speed of the wave in the wire? So this is just applying that equation. It's going to be Ft divided by the mass density, and the mass density is the mass divided by the length. Okay, so what's the mass? It's 0.075. What's the length of the thing? 2.4. That's going to be my mu. And so then this is going to be the square root of 160 divided by 0.075 divided by 2.4. Okay, because it gave us the tension here. So the square root of 160 divided by 0.075 divided by 2.4, and that gives us 71.6 meters per second. Now, what's the frequency used to drive the string into resonance? We'll say the resonance by frequency produces a standing wave with a wavelength equals to 1.2 meters. So what does that mean? Okay, so let's kind of, it's important that you learn how to sketch out the actual wave that fits in there. So if this is 2.4 meters and our wavelength, then that means we have this. That's 2.4 meters, that's one wavelength. And then we'll do another one, right? So that's our wavelength here, okay? And what do we use for our formulas? V is equal to lambda F, So F is equal to V divided by the wavelength, and we know the wavelength is 1.2 meters, and we know the speed. So divide that, divided by 1.2. The frequency is going to be about 59.6 hertz. Units of frequency is hertz, or 1 over seconds. And then this is this we call an n equals 4. So this is called a fourth harmonic, because we're fitting. It's like looks like this picture here. We're fitting in 2 waves into the length of the string. So this is for n equals 4, by the way. Okay. Let's look at another one. A string is firmly attached to both ends with a frequency of 60 hertz is applied. The string vibrates in the standing wave pattern shown, or standing wave pattern, not one shown. Assume the tension in the string and its mass per length do not change. So that means the velocity is fixed. That's what they're telling you there. Which of the following frequencies could not produce a standing wave pattern in the string? So what they're saying is the frequency is 60 hertz. Now here, what we have to understand, what we're trying to learn in this problem is how does the frequency change? So you could say like, well, okay, so like you don't know what harmonic this is going to be, but you do know that there's some certain multiples that it could be. So for example, let's say, okay, this is like if we go back to this pattern, if we look at our frequency, so frequency is velocity over the wavelength. So if we look at the velocity, like for this one, the wavelength is 2L. Okay, so this is for n equals 1. How about the frequency is 2 is the velocity over L? And notice that this is 2 times this guy right here, 2F1. And the F3 is going to be the velocity divided by the wavelength. The wavelength was 2/3 L, which is, you can flip that, is 3/2 V over L. And you see this V over 2L right there is F1. This is 3 times F1. So what ends up happening is you can have lots of multiples of the fundamental frequency. Okay? And then we call those the harmonics. So in this problem, what they're asking you is to say like, hey, what could we not produce? All right? Well, if we're producing 60 hertz, we can definitely produce any multiple of that if that were the fundamental. So we could definitely produce 180. That would be no issue. Now, the real question, it depends on like which one of these could be a multiple. Like if you made it could be any of these technically. So actually, I think we do need a picture of this one. So okay, I left out the picture. So here's the picture. So this one is 60 hertz. Now, here's what you want to think about, is you want to think about like, oh, okay, so this is my wavelength right here, because this is one complete sine wave, right? And that's equal to, if we look at this L, so this is a wavelength, this is half a wavelength, and we call this thing L. That means our L, the length is equal to 3/2 lambda, or the wavelength is 2/3 L. And so our frequency is the velocity over the wavelength, right? Because velocity is wavelength times frequency. That's velocity over 2/3 L. And this is 3 over V over L, like this. So this is 3 times the fundamental frequency. Okay? Because we said the fundamental frequency is you get to fit in there. So that means this is 60 hertz. Our fundamental frequency, F1, is 20 hertz. Okay? So that means we can create any sound on this wave, any multiple of these 20 hertzes. So that means we can create 40, we can create 80. We cannot create 30 hertz, though. None of those. The fundamental frequency would be 20 hertz, and then any multiple of that would come out based on the shape pattern there, okay? Let's look at number 3 here. Standing wave pattern to the right produces a string at both ends. The speed on the wave is 2 meters per second. What's the frequency of the standing wave pattern? Okay, so we know the velocity is 2 meters per second. And we want to know what the wavelength here is. What's the wavelength? Well, the wavelength is one of those sinusoids right there, like that, right? Because this is showing you top and bottom. So this is one of those sinusoids. That is our wavelength. And that's exactly half of this. So it's 0.5 meters is our wavelength. And then we just use the velocity as wavelength times frequency. Frequency is velocity over wavelength. So that's going to be 2 meters per second divided by 0.5 meters. And that's going to be 4 hertz. Like that. Just like that. Okay.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, just to like improve the quality of the channel, so that it shows up more, so we can share this out with more and more students out there.
The other thing is if you do need extra help, if you're needing maybe some more practice questions, more guidance on multiple choice questions, we do have program options to help you practice. Also run office hours. I answer questions for students, things like that. A little bit more just structured guidance. If you feel like you're needing some of that, go ahead and click the description below. There will be a link that takes you to a website where you can see about how the different programs operate for all the AP Physics and AP Calculus programs we run.